Okay, so I believe I'm listed as the host. We'll keep an eye on anybody who's trying to get into the meeting. Okay, so the meeting is called to order. Administrative matters, we understand the rules for public comment. People are invited to make comment throughout the meeting. Agenda items, we request that they limit their comments to a minute at the end of the meeting, or at the end of the session, or the agenda item rather. And if they have additional comment, they're certainly welcome to contact us at our committee email address, which is on our website, Bike and Walkways at wellfleet-ma.gov. Meeting's official charge. Let's see. Unless, do you have that?
I have
Christy?
it. Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. Can you want to go ahead and read it? I was about to, but
sure.
You got it.
And actually, I can set it up here so you're ready to share it. The Bike and Walkways Committee is hereby established to consider ways to provide safe areas for biking and walking. The Select Board believes that these activities should be available seasonally and year-round, as they are an important means of local transportation, are popular activities in the town, and promote good health. The Bike and Walkways Committee is charged with the following tasks. 1, to work with the Cape Cod National Seashore, the towns of Provincetown and Truro, and the Cape Cod Commission to establish the continuation of the bike trail northward into Provincetown, and 2, to prepare a plan for future bike and walking routes throughout the town of Wellfleet.
Okay, great. Thank you. Our near-term committee calendar, meeting calendar. Our next meeting, I recommend that we try to hold one more meeting prior to the select board holding its roundtable with the state. That's scheduled for Monday, which is June 14th. Did everybody see the poll? They call it a doodle poll that was put out by the town hall.
Yeah.
Okay. We talked in our last meeting about the fact we'll need to decide who's participating in the meeting, or if we all are, that's fine. Is there anybody who has an opinion about that as far as our committee representation in that meeting?
I think it should be everybody who wants to,
Yeah, and that's fine. Hopefully everybody responded back, because Helen Miranda Wilson was trying to put together trying to put the meeting together based on who was coming. So if you are planning to attend,
I think we can all attend. Anybody can watch the meeting, but I think they're trying to get a list of speakers. So personally, I think it would be good if the chair is willing to be the spokesperson to sign up to be the speaker. Obviously, if any of us have something important to add, we probably can join in.
Well, that's just it. I believe that Helen is trying to work the meeting protocol, and that's why she was asking for people's inputs on the that doodle poll. If let me ask you this: is there anyone who knows they cannot participate? Because what I can do is I could go, if you'd like, I'll go back to Helen and say that that all our committee members are interested in participating in this meeting, if you'd like.
That would be fine, because I think they're trying to limit the number of participants at the table.
Yeah.
I would feel confident or satisfied to join and just view through the YouTube channel and not have a attendee.
Okay, that's fine. It would be, I think though, it would be appropriate if we wanted to have a second member there. I mean, I'm fine to participate, but if, is there anyone who's on the call right now who would like to participate as a second member?
Yeah, I would.
Great.
Okay, great. I will, I'll also offer this to Terry. Christy, are you would you like to?
I also would love to be listening. I really do think that the two of you guys together have a nice broad span of knowledge, so I feel really confident with you representing us. I'd be happy to pitch in at any point, but I'm most satisfied as a listener. So
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, Ned, you and me then, and we'll,
I mean, unless Rebecca, wants to be.
No,
the-
Ned,
yeah,
I think it would be great. You've been on the Bike and Walkway Committee the longest of all of us, so I think
That's
you,
true.
and you know probably all these routes better than anybody from personal experience. So I think that would be fantastic combination to
Okay.
have
Yeah.
you and Pete, and I'll be listening, and I'll be there if there's for some reason something that only I could answer. You can always just I can have the Zoom link added or something, but I doubt.
and of course, we'll extend the same offer to Terry, who couldn't be here, but so for now, we'll say that Ned and I will plan on attending. And what I'm going to do, Ned, just to make sure that Helen is aware, since she's organizing this, is I will send her an email to
Okay,
let her know.
good.
Okay. I do think that we should hold a meeting prior to a committee meeting prior to that. Then that'll be on Monday, the 14th. So I know that Fridays are not the best day right now for everybody, but I would propose that that Friday would be good timing to hold a follow-up meeting. Today's Wednesday, so we're talking about 9 days, and it would be the business day prior to the meeting.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think we can plan ahead and do it during the day, probably.
Yeah, I'm definitely not available after 2 on Friday the 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
me
we
too. So,
our prior Friday meetings had been at 10 a.m. Is that an okay time for everybody, or does that pose any difficulty?
that works for me.
That works for me.
10 a.m. Okay. I will.
Chris, is that?
That's fine. Yeah, thanks.
And
That
could you
sound okay?
repeat what time on Monday the 14th the roundtable is, just while I have the calendar?
I have to
had
check.
decided, I think maybe that-
I'll have to check and see what I'll have to see. The time escapes me right now. I don't recall. I think it's early afternoon.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's during the day. I do know that. Okay. Yeah, another thing I'll do is I'll make sure that we get the time for that to everyone. Okay. Good. Next item on the agenda, approving minutes from the committee meetings on May 7th and May 21st. Thank you for drafting those, Christy. Everyone's had a chance to look at them, I believe, and provide feedback. Is there any comment on the minutes of the last two meetings?
Outstanding once again, Christy.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I move that we approve the minutes for May 7th and for May 21st.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye. Sounds unanimous. Okay. Excellent. So we'll move on. Bikeway analysis status. So as of today, all the segments have been scored by committee members. Thank you, Rebecca and Christy, for getting the last ones. What we'll need to do at this point next is to do a data review. We have all the scores for the segments, all the scores that have been input. There's a certain amount of data review we'll have to do to make sure that everything is lined up. And by that, I mean, there are a few places where blanks showed up. There are a few where a segment was scored by multiple parties and in which we had a wide variance in the scores. That was almost never the case, but in some cases it did occur. And so in those, we'll have to resolve those variances. What I would propose is that in doing that, and I talked to Ned a little bit about this. Given my work with the analysis plan, giving Ned's knowledge of the segments, if he and I were to sit down for a couple hours, that might be an efficient way to scan through the scores, looking for discrepancies and then addressing those in an objective fashion. And then once we've done a pass through that, we could then make that available to the rest of the committee for any individual comment. And Ned and I talked about trying to get together in the next couple of days to spend a couple of hours doing that, just so we can make sure that the data is ready to go for the scoring.
And I would just say, I know that we often would write in the notes, we reference if something was difficult to rate or wasn't rated. So I'd say when you do that, to pay close attention to the notes, because that may answer your question as to why it was.
Yeah, I think it's semantics in almost every case,
Yeah.
It's just, it was hard sometimes to figure out what that criteria meant in that situation, and so.
There was a learning curve, and
Yeah.
we definitely were all on it. So things settled out more toward the end, but in the beginning there were some variances, and some of it had to do with assumptions. And ultimately we arrived at a common set of assumptions about what different segments, what kind of bikeway different segments would be. In many cases, it was a continuation of the rail trail concept, a separated two-way bicycle lane or bicycle path. In others, it was something different. Sometimes, a lot of times, especially on some of the back roads, it was share the road,
Right.
Concepts. And then there were others depending on other places. I mean, obviously the state along Route 6 has one-way bike lanes on both sides of Route 6. So there were, a number of different combinations. But Ned, if you and I go through that, I think we could make great headway, I think. And then what we do is make the scores are all available in a single spreadsheet, and we can make those available to Christy, Terry, and of course Rebecca, and to look at and make sure that you're in agreement that we've covered it all. Nice thing about this is that we're all pretty well familiar with the segments. Everybody's got the segment map, which was sent out along with the list of segments and the description of the routes for what that's worth. But really, knowing that segment map, we're all pretty well versed in what the segments are at this point. We've all been out there walking these things, or we're driving them, or riding, cycling on them. So it's a chance for everybody to look at all the scores. And if there's a question, let's ask it. And
I see that there's someone in the waiting room. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you.
I'm going to let them in.
Yeah, thank you
Mark
for.
Siegel.
Yeah, I just let him in. Welcome, Mark. So we'll move. So we'll do that review of the data. The next steps forward, having completed the committee's scoring of the segment criteria, is to get inputs from the police department and DPW. There were 3 criteria total where we were going to, we had pre-coordinated with them to get their inputs. And so in the next week, I'd like to contact Chief Hurley and then also DPW to get their inputs. There were 2 criteria where DPW was going to make input, and 1 criteria that the police were going to provide us input on. And in both cases they offered. So I think we have a good working relationship with both departments. The National Seashore is making inputs on a number of the criteria. And there's a meeting scheduled with them to go over data that they'd like to review with us, and that'll be on Thursday. And that was going to be Terry and I, so that it wouldn't be a formal meeting per se, but it's a chance for us to provide them a look at data that we have on these alternative routes, because although much of their data is available in the ArcGIS data layers that we're already using, we're giving them the courtesy of taking a look at our actual maps so that they can weigh in and provide additional feedback if they'd like to. Again, we're including all the data layers that the Seashore provided to the Cape Cod Commission, and then we've coordinated with the Cape Cod Commission to receive those. And both of those other parties have been helpful with us in getting that data. Next step is that we have now that we've scored the segments, and we're doing the final phases of the segment scoring, is the routes that have been proposed, which after all are what the segments comprise. And there are 26 routes that were proposed. Those are being entered into GIS by Terry, so that you'll be able to see those visually on the map. There are 11 route level criteria, and we'll score those using GIS as a visualization tool. Many of those criteria at the route level were held until we got to the route level, because they're relatively holistic. So rather than being a practical matter that one can score in a segment, it's the kind of thing that conceptually one scores for an end-to-end route in terms of connectivity, directness, things like that. Also, once we have those routes mapped into GIS, along with all the segments, it will be an opportunity to look for hybrid routes. And so the committee will have all this information available to it. And, GIS is interactive. Terry is the person who really has the most control on that. And we can work with her individually to take a look at that data, I'm sure. And she can perhaps make it available to everyone, because it's fairly easy to use and pretty interactive. So, we can look. Of course, we've all been thinking about it for months, and in some cases years, but who knows, something new may pop up.
Will it be possible for Terry to put in the segments that all score above a certain level, so that those could all, when we're doing hybrids, we could highlight the segments that all come up with a baseline score and see what's out there?
Yes. In fact, that's a key part of the analysis. Is we want to take those segments and we'll color code them according to. There will be color bands for different scoring levels, and you'll be able to see, blue, green, yellow, orange, red.
Okay.
You'll be able to see which segments really score outstanding, which ones are excellent, satisfactory, marginal, or unsatisfactory. Yeah, good point. And that will be available, and we can all take a look at that as we look for other potential routes to score. And of course, at this point, now that we've collected all this data, scoring a new route can be very quick, because it's all automated at this point.
Right.
And if you identify a new route,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a case of identifying the sequence of the segments, and you'll have all the segment level scoring, and then the route level scoring can be done, with 11 criteria, it can be done in a couple of minutes, and there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So next week would be a great time to do that. And if we can finish doing the segment level review this week, that would be great, since we talked about getting a couple hours this week to finish that.
Yeah.
Let's see, the other thing I was going to mention is the report. So we had told the select board, I've been working on the shell of the report that would contain our conclusions, because a lot of it is putting together, documentation of what we did, documentation of considerations, things like that, and can be written before our analysis, before our recommendations are complete. So I'm building the shell of that document now. My goal is to be done with that by Friday the 4th. If we have the segment level scoring completed, and the route level for the proposed routes, and we have inputs from the police and the fire, or excuse me, from police and DPW, we'll be in a position really to do our analysis, get our analysis recommendations completed next week, because we've collected all this data. The reason I bring this up is because the select board, of course, will be meeting in its roundtable with the state on Monday, the 14th. Now, when they originally approved our analysis plan back in early April, the understanding, what they voted on was to meet with the state after we had provided our report. We're now in a situation where the select board elected to meet with the state without coordinating on when our report would be in. And so I guess it presents us with a challenge, and I'm trying to meet that challenge by, if we can have our report ready to submit to them, then we will. Now, we don't want to submit a report that's not ready.
Yeah.
But if we have an opportunity to meet that, to provide it before the meeting date, I'd like to try. Any comments or thoughts on that?
Amazing.
In the
I
end,
was
are
going to
we,
say that's really
go ahead.
sorry. I just was saying, first of all, that's awesome. And Pete, thank you for putting in all that work. I'm happy to be available in the next few days too, because I know that Rebecca and I scored a lot of the segments as a pair. And so if you have questions about routes or segments that you weren't on, I'm really happy to put in for this push too. I really believe in it. It's
Thank you. That'd be great. And Christy, I know that because you're a writer by profession to some extent, I'd like to invite, I was going to send out a draft for everyone to review and comment of the, and it will be a first draft of this report, because there are several sections, but I'd appreciate anybody's review and input on this thing, because it is a team effort here. And I was trying to lead the target a little by preparing this before the analysis was complete, but now we're working these things in parallel, and since we're trying to accelerate our timeline. So yeah, I'll send that out as soon as I can. If I'm completing it on Friday, it may be late Friday, it may be early Saturday that I would send it out. Great.
And I was going to say, in the end, are we going to submit like one route and that's it, or are we going to kind of like try to scale like our top 3 proposal routes, or what is the game plan for the
Well, let's talk about that. I'm glad you brought that up, Ned. My thought was that to do the second that you just mentioned, which was maybe to present a top 3.
Yeah, I think that too. Absolutely. Yeah.
Because
And
we're going to have routes that have different characteristics and different qualities. I don't know that we're going to have one that stands out. Christy?
And the one might
And we
get
can also-
rejected for some reason, and it'd be nice to have a fallback number 2 or number 3 if for whatever reason number 1 isn't viable.
Yeah. Christy?
I was just going to say too, we could specify what are the priorities being met by each one, because during the scoring process, I was so surprised. There were certain pathways or segments we were scoring, and we'd say, well, that's a 5, that's a 5,
Yeah.
but they were big negatives. And I was really glad we had that section, cutting through virgin woods, or, some of those things that we know are really critical to that detract from the character of the town. So I think it's important to let people understand, well, of course, we know there's not a perfect one, but this one's the best safety wise. Well, this one's the best as far as environmentally, you know, and people can have some choice and some say.
Yes, yes. What we'll see is that we have different the routes that score best for a particular criterion, or excuse me, for a particular goal, whether it's safety or conservancy, connectedness, that sort of thing, practicality. You know, and it will be useful that we've broken it out this way, and we'll be able to identify which are the top contenders when it comes to safety, and are they the same as the top contenders when it comes to constructability and practicality, and so forth. So yeah, it'd be useful. We can break these scores down to look for trends. We can look for, you know, again, we can break it out so we can do rankings according to different goals or even different objectives. So yeah, I think it'll be fun, and I hope that you know, we will be working to do the analysis. We'll be working somewhat independently, obviously, but the data will be available, and so that if you're looking for hybrid routes, I mean, the thing to do is to probably contact me or contact Terry right away if you spot something that you think should be included to be assessed as a route based on what we, you know, the results we see for the segments. Because since she's driving the GIS and because I'm managing the computational database, either one of us would be a good point of entry to provide any hybrid routes. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, this will be highly interactive. We of course need to be careful that we don't, we have to keep in mind open meeting laws. At the same time, you know, we need to make progress on this. And so there will be a lot of the computation. Once we've got the score settled, a lot of the computation, of course, is one person with a computer, and then identifying results, which can then be shared with the whole committee, and there can be feedback provided. But you know, those will get incorporated because this is an objective analysis. I think it'll be informative to share those results, but yeah, they'll be, you know, put into the report as they are. Okay. Any other thoughts? So hopefully everybody has time next week to kind of keep tabs on this as we move forward. I mean, there'll be some emails coming out, right, with data. So it'd be great to be able to do this interactively next week.
Yeah, and just put the push on, you know, we're all busy, but you know, we gotta just kind of find time to get this put through right now.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
how about with that, Peter? I remember I spoke with you yesterday about it. You didn't hear any about whether we could meet in person now. I think for doing this kind of stuff, especially, it could be really nice.
Yes, my apologies. I meant to forward the email. I did get something yesterday from Town Hall, and they essentially said that no, we're still constrained to do meetings by Zoom. So we're doing virtual meetings still. There has not been there actually needs to be a decision to revert back to in-person meetings, and that decision has not been made. It's likely that virtual meetings will continue into September. Yeah, so that's the latest I have from Town Hall.
About Governor Baker and the open meeting law, and it's I'll have to go back and find it because it sounded to me like they were with all the mask rules that they were going to be reverting back, but then maybe allowing Zoom to be an option more than it used to be, that they weren't going to make it illegal.
Right, which would be, I mean, that would be a great hybrid solution.
Yeah.
But thanks for the reminder, Nick. So I'll forward the email that I got from Rebecca Eldridge at Town Hall. And that'll be self-explanatory, but she indicated that that this will be continuing for a while. We may see a change. I mean, nothing's constant with this lockdown situation except for change. And
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of rules come and go. So let's see what happens. I'll forward the email to you after we get off the meeting now. Great. Any other thoughts or comments regarding the bikeway analysis? And invite comments from public as well. I'm not hearing any. I will move on in the agenda here. Other bike and walkway issues in Wellfleet? Any inputs?
I'm just curious if you heard back from the select board. I'm sure you would have told us about the Amsler property.
Yes.
No, I did not. That remains unanswered. So as we all know, we have sent 2 letters to the select board over 2 months, expressing our concern that the DCR's work at the Amsler property violates the commitment the DCR commissioner made in writing to our select board. We've expressed that concern to the select board twice. Again, the first time was before the property was cleared, when it still could have been saved, and the select board was silent. We sent a second letter of concern between our last 2 meetings, and I don't recall the exact date, but that went in, and that was also unanswered by the select board. So unless there's any comment.
I just feel like the state is kind of, or the DCR is just flipping us the bird, you know. They just, you know, it looks like they're just getting that whole parking area all ready to go, and I think I'm pretty frustrated with that. What else can we do, you know?
Is there a goal or an agenda for the roundtable? Do we know that's been published yet?
I have not seen an objective for the roundtable yet.
Okay. We just know that it's the select board and the state and meaning DCR and Mass DOT probably.
Correct. And Senator Sear and Representative Peak.
Oh, that's great.
And the seashore.
And yes, thank you. The Seashore. I suppose the Cape Cod Commission is also invited. I did provide some contact information for when asked by the select board, provided contact information I had for those, you know, our contacts at those agencies. All right. No, that's a good question. No, thanks. Hey, any other? So we have not heard an objective for that meeting. The objective appears to be to hold a roundtable. Other business, not anticipated 48 hours before the meeting. We always include that on our agenda because it's proven useful. Anything that anybody wants to bring up?
No.
No surprises. Okay. Any other proposed action or agenda items for this evening? Or any other comments, for including the public? Okay, well, thank you. We have a busy week ahead of us. Like I said, a lot of email will be coming out, and sharing of data so that everybody has it, because we definitely want to do this as a team, pulling this together and making sure everyone on the team has the data at their disposal and can make inputs as the computations are being done. Okay, well, with that, I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Vote
All
favor.
in favor? Christie's ready to vote. Okay,
All right.
is Rebecca opposed?
Hi.
No. Okay, everybody, thanks.
All right. See you guys.
All right.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thanks so much.
Bye.